Because we have a fear problem in our culture, don't we? You think about the last almost 2 years now, how many things were driven by fear? It started with coronavirus. Remember that crazy thing? I vividly remember standing at a Petro-Canada filling up my car in March of 2020, wiping down everything with Clorox wipes, thinking, is this the next Black Death? Am I going to be doing 25 funerals this year? I was afraid. Guessing many of you were too. As the pandemic progressed, there were other things to be afraid of, though. Not just death and sickness, but some people started to fear the government. Can they do this? If they can, should they do this? Is this the right thing to do? Is this a power play? And then, of course, vaccines rolled out, and there was fear along with that. How did they get developed so fast? Are they good for us? What about long-term effects? Again, is this some sort of government coercion? People were afraid. And then you had the death of George Floyd, which caused a lot of fear. For some, because when they saw George Floyd on the ground, they saw themselves, or they saw their son, because they were Black, and they fear law enforcement, they fear systemic racism. For some people, the fear came from the protests and riots that came after that, damage to property, damage to life. For others, it was fear of now having to have difficult conversations about race. Or for some, it was seeing the Black Lives Matter movement and seeing, well, it has good intentions. Some of the things that it says maybe are a little bit dangerous. And then, of course, there was an economy that was taking a downturn because of the pandemic. Some of us feared for our pocketbooks or our investments. We had a couple elections. Remember those? People afraid that if Donald Trump stayed in power, white supremacists would run the United States. People afraid that if Joe Biden got in power, he would put in place progressive policies that would undermine Western civilization. We had an election of our own, and the list goes on. And whether or not any of those things are worth fearing or not is not the point. The fact is people fear them, right? We have a fear problem. But it didn't start 2 years ago. I think it started a little bit before that with an economy of fear. If you look at modern advertising, it's very different from advertising even 100 years ago. 100 years ago, you would have seen advertisements that would have said something like, buy this brand of gloves because they're warm, or drink Coke because it's good. Because at that point, products actually did have quite a bit of discrepancy between which products were high quality or low quality. But today, you have a little bit more of a narrowing of the field. And so what brands are starting to do is less talk about how good their product is, and but instead, how if you do not buy their product, then you're going to miss out. They play on this fear of missing out, or what the kids call FOMO, right? I mean, check it. The next time you open your phone and an ad comes up, or you're watching TV and a commercial comes on, ask yourself, is this playing to my fear of missing out? Is this telling me that if I don't buy this, I won't be good enough, I won't be attractive, I won't be acknowledged, I won't advance, I won't live as well, I won't be as beautiful? Just ask yourself, is that what it's doing? Well, in a sense, it's building this culture that everything we do, every decision we make, every consumer purchase is done through fear. But it actually goes back a little bit farther than that. There's a massive long-range study that was done of the influence of screens on children. The study revealed that if the average child, by the time they become an adult, has seen on a screen 8,000 murders and over 20,000 acts of violence. And what the study revealed is that the children who had increasing levels of seeing murder and violence on screens actually reported to be more afraid of the real world. And even afraid of things that weren't like they were going to get killed or anything like that. Like they just saw the world as a more fearful place. And that study was done in 1968. Like just when there was just TV and just a couple channels on that TV, people were already studying the effects of screens on children, and it was making them more afraid of life. And people have followed up on this research today and have said it's gotten exponentially worse because we have phones and laptops and tablets and 24-hour news cycles and streaming services and like 5 TVs in our houses. We're afraid. Which is why I think the message that John has for us today, that perfect love can drive out fear, is worth the price of your attention.